All right, guys. I think it's time for some good stuff. Let's do this. You gotta pretend like it's an ice cream cone, basically. You gotta.
Are you straight in there?
Yeah, just you know.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Hi, I'm Snow. You know me. I have another very special guest for today. This is Mr. Ben Louel. You might not know Ben. Ben, we work with you every single day. But I don't think the public really knows who you are, what you do. Do you want to?
Okay, so I head up PR for the Western market. So in reality, that entails North America, Europe, Australia, and all those other countries that perhaps such as India, Middle East. So quite a lot. So we work with obviously our offices in North America, Germany, France, and the UK. And with some of our fine distribution partners throughout the rest of the world.
Powerful man in powerful places, it seems.
Yeah, I don't get to travel to them all. Happy to be here in Cologne once again, so it's nice to be back.
This is my first time here, actually, so
okay, yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
it's a huge show.
It is. It is a big show. For those of you who aren't here or haven't had a chance to get here before, I mean, today's sort of fairly quiet because today is just a day for trade, for media, for retail. But come tomorrow, wow, it gets crazy busy tomorrow when the consumers come through the door, and it's going to be mobbed tomorrow. We're kind of in a nice little quiet place on this side. We have a little business centre. It's kind of quiet in the business centre, but there's a whole complete hall just for consumers to hang out, try the latest games, including, of course, our own games.
I think I'm going to go there early tomorrow and try and capture a little bit of a booth tour.
Yeah, I think if people know the sort of the scenes at TGS, for example, on Consumer Days there, that gives you an idea about kind of the mob that is going to be here tomorrow in Cologne.
So it's worse than E3, worse than Comic-Con. It's massive.
Pretty big. Yeah, I mean, I
heard 240,000 walk through here, or something like that.
That's probably around that. Yeah, over the few days.
It's a lot of people. But what's kind of cool to me about this particular event is that it's all games.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of big events. You know, we go to Comic-Con every year. We go to New York Comic-Con, and they're everything. They're movies, they're comics, they're TV, games included, you know. But this is only games.
I think it just shows, the love that people have, the passion that people have for video games, the fact that you can put on a show that is dedicated pure and simple to video games, and people are willing to spend their hard-earned euro, in this case, to come through the door and try those latest games. Yeah, it shows that, we may be in a bit of a recession across Europe and across the world in general, but, people can't wait to get their hands on the latest stuff, the latest games.
So I want to know a little bit more about you now.
Okay, so I am actually a bit of a Capcom vet, in as much as I've been with the company now 10 years. So I started out when Capcom first set up its full-time operation within Europe. Yeah. We had a little office in London. There were about 8 people then. This is back in 2001. And now we've grown. In fact, grown so much that we're moving offices in London.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, we're hanging out to a new place.
And you guys don't have to share desk anymore?
No, we can't. we are literally on top of each other right now. And even worse, when guests come from across our other offices, there's nowhere for them to sit. It's a little bit embarrassing. In addition to that, we've not only opened the operation up in London, but since that time I've been with the company, we've also opened up dedicated operations in France and Germany as well. Yeah,
well, I know Germany has 15 already.
It's about that, and about 10 in France. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're growing. The Capcom army is growing in Europe.
You just need to open one in Italy now.
Yeah. I will be more than happily travel there. Absolutely. So yeah, I started off doing predominantly UK focused PR with a bit of European stuff thrown in as well, and then gradually, as we got more staff on board, I sort of elevated up the ranks, I guess, to where I am now. So happy to have been with Capcom for 10 years. It's quite a landmark for me personally.
Yeah, I have to say that you've been here longer than I think most people within the company. This is a high turnaround industry. So it's rare that you see the kind of loyalty.
Do you know, it's interesting you say that. I mean, I look at our office, certainly in London, and the number of staff turnover it's been fairly low during that period. We've got a lot of staff within Capcom who have. I've got a couple of colleagues who have done 10 years. Number have done 7 or 5.
Wow.
I think,
must be a US thing.
I think, you know, if you've got great quality product, like we have, you know, there's a reason to stay around. I mean, either that or no one else wants me. I don't know which one it is, but I like to think it's, you know, I still enjoy working on Capcom games.
Yeah.
You know, I'm probably a little bit further removed now from the day-to-day PR activity and taking them out on the road to show the press, which I do miss that side of things. But, you know, I still get a chance to see stuff really early, get an insight into what the teams are doing now, which is great, you know, to travel to Osaka, to sit down with the guys, you know, our talented teams in R&D, and have a really good exchange of ideas with those guys at early time is fantastic, you know.
Well, so I have to ask then, what's your favorite Capcom game?
I'm going to say Devil May Cry 1. And the reason I'm going to say that is it was really the first game that I worked on at Capcom.
Oh, yeah?
So when I joined in that year, the year we brought out DMC 1, we had Code Veronica, and also Onimusha 1 on PS2. So for me, you know, Dante, Devil May Cry has a special place in my heart. You know, I think we really we bought something new with Devil May Cry, and we started. We changed a bit the face of action combat games. Yeah. And I think when we look at what we're doing now with DMC, we're kind of following on that tradition.
Pretty cool. Was it still Resident Evil back when you started?
There was still some Resident Evil stuff going on.
Well,
yeah.
Do you remember that or no? DMC was originally a Resident Evil game.
I think by the time
Devil May Cry 1, I mean.
Yeah, by the time it kind of had got to us, it had morphed into the DMC we know. But yes, then having had those conversations with the team, yes, it was. That's when you found out it was once upon a time another RE game.
Cool. So I can sort of see the chat over here. If you guys have questions for Ben too, just go ahead and ask away, and I'll pull them out. But so what are some of the other like favorites that you've worked on throughout? I mean, DMC 1 obviously being like one of your favorites in the most recent or historically.
An interesting one I think for me was Steel Battalion. Oh yeah, the original Xbox game. Just because it was so crazy, so innovative, and I had to spend a week touring around Europe with that game, carrying the bloody great controller in a box, getting to these media outlets, assembling it together in front of their eyes with them going, what the hell is this? And then having to take them through it and going through that whole startup process, and it was just something no one had seen before. Yeah. And it was great. I think that really epitomizes Capcom's desire to continue to innovate, and to take advantage of the technology that exists and push it as far as possible. You know, and we've always been at the forefront. Whenever a new platform is launched, pretty much Capcom has always been there from day one, or very, very soon after release, with a top-notch quality product.
You know, come to think of it, that's been pretty true. I've never really actually thought of it like that. But on those same two notes, we got Steel Battalion for Kinect. Have you actually played it at all?
I haven't myself had a go yet, so I've watched.
I've not either. I really want to. I haven't seen
a demonstration. We were at the Microsoft event yesterday, which is great. We debuted that game for the first time to some of the press from around the world. Got a great reception. Kato-san was there, who's the producer from Capcom Japan. And it was great to see how, obviously having worked on the first game in a PR capacity, to see how, you know, they took the things that were from that sort of, the control system, if you will, they had there, the controller, and then move that into taking advantage of Kinect technology. Yeah. So, you know, there is still the ejector switch. That is still there. And you will use the Kinect. You will there, flick it up, press the button. Now, unlike the original game, your save data will not be erased.
Yeah.
So there is, which I think is.
I don't know if that was really a feature of the original. Someone actually had a question here, more job-wise. So wondering, he says, do you need some new guys at Capcom Germany?
At Capcom Germany? Well, you know, those guys, they work so hard, you know, especially when it comes to events like this. I'm sure they could always use a new pair of hands. As to whether there's actually any open positions right now.
Where do they go to check?
I guess they can just check on, if they go to the Capcom website, there should be a link to Capcom
Careers.
Germany. And should be able to go. They could probably contact directly with the Capcom Germany team, actually. Yeah. So
if you guys are interested,
if not, you know, mail Sean. He can mail me, and we'll get you the contact details for sure.
I know there's a careers page for the U.S. I know there's one for Capcom Europe, but I don't know if that encompasses.
May well do, actually. Yeah.
The Germany side of it.
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know. I don't work in HR.
No, me neither. PR, not HR.
So, PR is kind of like, I mean, in my mind, PR's grown and helped sort of birth the roots that ended up being community and what we do here. So, what's the involvement you've had with community going through here? Because basically, back when you started, you guys were the community. I mean, there was no such thing as a community site for Capcom at all.
There wasn't at all. I mean, it very much was. You know, the feedback you got would be in letter form.
Yeah.
You know, people would write back saying, and I remember, you know, certainly when I started, the main question was, when are we going to get 50, 60 hertz switching in your game? When are we going to get rid of letterboxing for the European PAL versions?
Yeah.
Which was a big issue at that time. And, you know, in the same way that we have the community now, even then, you know, we would listen to those guys, and it took a bit of time, you know, to get R&D to amend change the way they made their games. But we did it, you know, and there were games that were coming out on PS2 and, you know, that did run in 60 hertz, had the switch enabled if you didn't have a 60 hertz enabled TV, got rid of letterboxing, and, you know, so... yes, it was it was a slower, much slower. There isn't this immediacy that we have nowadays. You know, yes, I think, you know, now I have to think a lot more, and so do the people I work with in PR. We can't do things in isolation anymore. You know, we have to work alongside your good self and your colleagues, not just, you know, and obviously Carl in the UK, Tim in Germany, Alexander in France. You know, because whatever we're saying to the press doesn't just live in the press domain.
Well, yeah, times have changed.
For the better, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I like the fact that we can have conversations directly with our community now, get their feedback immediately, and, you know, try and take that on board where possible, implement changes to give them, you know, better experiences.
Sorry. Gunnar from Fat Sharks here.
Oh, hey Gunnar. Long time no see.
He says call me. So a question came up here.
Yeah.
They're asking, are you going to be at Tokyo Game Show?
Personally, I will definitely be at Tokyo Game Show. We will. Capcom will have, obviously, its own stand within the consumer area at the show. We are also, just had it confirmed last week, we will run a kind of a media suite in the new Otani Hotel, which sits next door to the Makuhari Messe. So that gives an opportunity for the press from Europe, from North America, to come by and play our games in sort of relative peace and quiet, if you will. So, and some interviews with the teams as well.
Running around through 100,000 people to try and get a demo is not fun.
So no, I love going to Tokyo. That's, if you know, one of the things that is great about working for Capcom is I get to travel to Japan a lot. I love the place. I love the people. You know, both Osaka, which I go to more so. Tokyo is probably only about once a year, but I'm very lucky. You know, many people would, you know, cut off their arm to travel to the home of video games.
Yeah.
And I get to do it on a regular basis. So clock up those air miles.
There you go. So seeing all these new upcoming releases and everything, what we've announced, what are you most excited about? Well, the question specifically is, which upcoming release are you Capcom guys looking forward to?
From a Capcom perspective or from any perspective?
I mean, what are you most excited about?
Okay, from a non-Capcom game, I'm going to say the game I'm looking forward to most in the next couple of months is the new Batman game.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed playing the first one, so I'm looking forward to this one again. See what they're bringing new to the party.
Yeah.
From a Capcom perspective, I'm not a fight fan. I'm absolutely awful at fight games, so I'm going to rule out Street Fighter Cross Tekken. I'm going to rule out Ultimate Marvel. I would say I'm actually very interested in Operation Raccoon City.
Yeah.
For the simple reason that, this is a new take on the Resident Evil world, a new way of playing, a new way of experiencing Resident Evil. So that for me, I've grown up with Resident Evil games. I've worked on a lot of Resident Evil games, and now we're kind of going in a new direction. So I'm interested how that's going to play through.
Do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. Expand it out. I'm guessing there's people there who are shooter fans who perhaps they haven't played a Resident Evil game before.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring them into that Resident Evil universe, and also Resident Evil fans who perhaps aren't full-on shooter guys. Let's give them something new.
Someone says this is a trick question, by the way. You love trick questions. They said, are there any games that you're excited about that you can't talk about?
Plenty.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes, but we can't say what they are.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing in my job. I think is I have, and Christian is probably in a similar position when he comes on this show. We know of things that are off in the future that are really, really exciting, and we would love to share them with you guys. Unfortunately, there are people who live upstairs.
Yes.
Who would not take too kindly to us
I don't think so.
those things. And I love working for Capcom. I want to continue working for Capcom. So I will tell you when I'm allowed to tell you.
Actually, I just had another question. This one I don't know the answer to, truly. So we have Resident Evil Code Veronica and Resident Evil 4. Are those releasing in Europe at all?
They are. The digital titles.
When are those releasing? Is it the same time frame as
the same time frame.
Oh,
the only exception for that is in Germany, Resident Evil Code Veronica will not be released.
Is it?
Unfortunately, the original game was banned, so we're not allowed to bring that over to Germany, even in its new form.
Right. Okay.
But otherwise, both titles, pretty much day and date. Maybe slight differences between the PSN date in Europe to America.
Yeah.
But it's within a couple of days of each other.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. I didn't know, and I just saw someone mention Resident Evil, so I wondered. So, let's see. Someone said, why a lack of Marvel? We'll play Marvel later in a little bit. Move controls for DMC. I don't know if you know a whole lot. I mean, we got the interview coming up for DMC on Friday. So if you guys are watching, by the way, Friday at 5 local time here, which is like
4 p.m. UK time, which is 8 a.m. in West Coast, PST.
Yeah. So there we go. Anyway.
I know my time zones. I have to.
You know it better than I do. I had to come up here and basically make it up.
Move for DMC. I was in an interview earlier on actually with the guys, and nothing is confirmed on that front right now. So that is definitely a watch this space.
Cool.
Although I can imagine that'd be quite hard work, maybe. I don't know.
I
don't know. You'd get pretty fit playing that game, right?
I'm trying to think if there's any games that were similar to that, like maybe using the Wii, similar style controls. Was Mad World kind of like that, or no? I don't remember.
World. I did play it. It was just. You did a bit of that with the.
I don't remember. Yeah,
sorry, guys.
Too many games.
Too many
games with a bad memory. So someone was actually wondering if you can talk a little bit about the DMC. They just said talk about the new DMC.
Whoa. Okay. So
what are we showing off here that's new?
Well, we've been doing some little behind closed doors presentations to the media today. In fact, so this was. Are
they embargoed?
No. They're out. The people can be talking about those hopefully very soon. So this was kind of Dante's coming out party, I guess. Obviously, we'd announced the game back at TGS last year. We released the trailer then. A few bits of assets have dripped out since then. But this is the first time we were actually able to show the game running live. And the focus for us the purpose of the demo was really to focus and showcase the combat.
Yeah.
Showcase that, at its core, Devil May Cry series is about combat. about stylish combat. And, you know, to say to everyone, look guys, you know, this is still here. The game may be being developed outside the walls of Capcom Japan, but let me honestly, there are people within Capcom Japan, let's call, you know, they are effectively the brand guardians for Devil May Cry. They are there to ensure that the DMC Devil May Cry title, when it hits the shores, when it gets released, will remain true to the Devil May Cry that you all know, you all love. And hopefully, you know, I'm fairly confident what I've seen that it's living up to those expectations.
Yeah.
We'll get the views of the press over the coming weeks for what they saw in the presentations, and of course over the coming months, you know, we want to come and share more of that with all of you guys. You know, prove to you that there is a deep style combat system within the game, and that there is, you know, other things that we're bringing to the series. You know, for Ninja Theory have a very good track record in delivering compelling narrative, very high production values, and bringing that in to the game to make, you know, a really polished title that, you know, with the narrative that complements the combat, doesn't override it.
Yeah.
It sits there and it makes it a package in its entirety.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I can say. I mean, the proof. I don't know if this is too of an English phrase, but the proof is in the pudding. You know, until people get their hands on it and play it, you know, there will be some doubters out there. But, you know, we really believe we're going to prove them wrong. We want to prove them wrong.
Yeah. Well, I have yet to actually play anything recent. So,
okay.
I'm excited to hear it's playable.
We'll see what we can do. We may have a little surprise for you guys this Friday.
So, yeah, that would be cool, actually. So, this one is I'll keep this as my last question to you, because this one's a tricky one always.
Oh, no.
And it's one I have to ask. Monster Hunter's pretty dear to me.
Yeah.
And we have a few people asking here, too. What's going on with Monster Hunter? Is there any plans to localize anything? I mean, where's it at?
Oh. Oh, man. That is the tough question. Sven always gets stuck on this one as well, right?
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm not going to lie. I know the answers to these. But
you know them probably better than me do.
I probably
the media I do.
Monster Hunter to me is a really exciting brand, and it's hard to really try and explain to people, you know, the problem we face, because in Japan, I mean, in a month it sells 5 million copies. Yeah. And it sells it on a system that just doesn't do so well outside of Japan. You know, I mean, the PSP is fantastic. Sure. But the kind of people who love to play Monster Hunter and that type of game is almost always on console or PC. So, I mean,
you know, I think there is a definite fan base, not just in North America, but also in Europe. I mean,
well, there's sold 750,000 across the West. So,
I mean, we had some great initiative. We had a great initiative for the last PSP title, which was the Gathering Halls. The Gathering Hall in London, which was Leo Tan, our UK PR manager, who was, like Sean, a massive MH fan.
I saw him walking around just a little bit.
Yeah, he got this thing together, and you know, it was in London for a couple of months in the summer, and you know what? I went down there a couple of times. People were always there, and that sense of sharing, of playing together, which really engendered it and made it such a success in Japan, which is somehow hasn't really caught on in such a big way in the West, was evident there. You know, there are a real dedicated followers of that game who enjoy playing with each other, playing that game together and sharing tips, going on quests together, and that's what happens in Japan. And it just, I don't know, it just hasn't. I think to your point that it, you know, we're perhaps more of a console.
Yeah.
Sit in front of your console at home playing.
We like 2 thumbsticks.
We do. Hey, Vita, baby.
Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe.
Well, Vita has that, but I don't know about PSP.
Well, I know they did a tech demo of Portable Third as a digital title to show the backwards compatibility, and they showed that you could use old PSP games. So if you download, because they just released Portable Third in Japan on the PSN, so if you download it, technically you could play with both thumbsticks on the Vita. But then again, it's still not localized in English. It's just Japanese.
And Vita is whenever that is.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what Sony's hinting at now. I think they said next year or something.
Yeah, we haven't really been given any firm dates as yet on that.
I don't know either. So I guess I don't want to leave on a sad Monster Hunter note. So is there anything else like that you want to shout out to these guys? Stuff to look forward to, or?
I just, I like to say, well, first off, thanks, Sean, for letting me here on your show. It's
this
great.
Is Capcom show, not my show.
Well, I apologize. But yeah, from me, from our efforts, community efforts in Europe, we haven't quite got to the standards that our great friends in North America have got to yet, but that's something that we're really working hard on.
We'll join together. That's what we got to do.
So I think what I'd like to see would be a unified community that breaks down the boundaries. Doesn't matter where you live. I mean, we have now Unity in Japan, man.
Yeah.
They just set up shop as well. So
we've been working with them about it. Actually, just to let you guys know, we'll be announcing where it's located at, but. There is a Capcom Unity Japan, but I won't give you the link yet for fear that it may break their site. They're still testing. So.
Oh, is it not up and running?
Well, it's technically there. No, it's we announced that we're going to do it, but we just haven't given a link yet.
Okay.
Because they're still testing a few things out.
I had a quick look at it the other day.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's basically exactly what you get from Capcom Unity, just in Japan.
Yeah. So I think that for me, it's really that PR. PR's changed. PR it continues to change. And hopefully we can continue to kind of work with the community to give them what they want, as well as giving the media outlets what they want as well. It's that's for me is the kind of the challenge in the years ahead, is that balance between making sure that our friends in the media are happy and making sure you guys out there are happy as well. So that means I'm going to have to demand more assets that are exclusive for you guys, to keep you guys, make sure you have stuff that is exclusive to you, and that we wanted to continue to do that.
Sounds good. Hang on, I want to.
Is there one more? You keep me here.
Oh,
he wants the link.
So what's the deal with you probably don't know anything about this, but I'll have to ask anyway.
Okay.
A lot of people ask about the PSN content in the UK that we get in North America.
Right.
Is there any plans for any of that stuff to sort of trickle through?
It is coming through. So we unlike say with Microsoft and Xbox, which is a sort of global system.
Right.
We have Sony Computer Entertainment Europe, Sony Computer Entertainment America, and they do operate somewhat independently with regards to the digital offerings. Absolutely, we will try and bring as many of those digital titles to Europe as possible. And I know I'm working closely with a colleague in my office, and he's working closely with Bochan in US office.
I think Bochan's basically the guy who runs it in the US.
Yeah. So there is now collaboration in terms of we're aware of what you guys are getting in North America, and we're then making sure that we, as much as possible, can bring that across to Europe. On occasion, there are issues with licensing, and for instance, there were some problems initially with some of the Resident Evil titles, because some of the early Resident Evil titles were distributed by other companies, because Capcom didn't have an operation at the time. If you own a copy of Resident Evil 1 and you live in Europe, you will notice on the front splash screen a Capcom logo, but you'll also notice a Virgin Interactive logo.
Interesting. They published it here then.
They did. So there is some issues there that we need to overcome. We are doing our best to sort all those things out. So if we're a little bit behind the curve, please bear with us. We are trying.
Yeah. Well, I know of some similar issues in. It might be the same in Europe, but we had talked about releasing some of the older PS1 games where the rights to like voice actors and sounds, those companies were dissolved or non-existent anymore, and so we can't even reach out to give these people to renew a license to resell them digitally, and that was never thought about.
I guess back in the day, people didn't.
Who knew?
They were just happy to have a disc back in those days.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if Dino Crisis was one of those. Someone asked about Dino Crisis, but I know a few specifically, and I don't want to bring up any salty feelings, but I know Mega Man Legends that series in particular. The reason it came out in Japan, but the reason we couldn't do it here is because the only way for us to do it, I mean, we can't just shy of like going through and redoing all of the music and voice work because that was all done by companies that aren't around anymore, or we can't track them down even though we've tried. So
yeah, Dino Crisis. I mean, I honestly I don't have an answer specifically for that title, but again, like I say, that is a title that would have come under the Virgin Interactive banner. So again, that will be something we'll have to work through with someone. Not quite sure who, because Virgin Interactive have kind of disbanded. They've got an operation in Spain, I think, but that's about it now. So
well, I mean, if there's a way to track them down.
But talking of Dino Crisis, there is a game I would like to see, a new Dino Crisis game made by Capcom.
So, wait, I'm trying to think when the first one released. Did you work on the first?
I didn't. No, that was before my time.
So you worked on probably 2 and 3 then?
No. I worked on the Dino Crisis Gun Survivor game. Was a PS1 title, and there was one more, I think. I can't remember what it is now. No, that's just that one. Gun Survivor. Yeah.
So no dinosaurs in space for you?
Oh, sorry. 3. Yeah. Maybe I've just eradicated that from my memory bank.
Dino Crisis 3 was it was interesting.
That's the appropriate word.
Yeah. Well, there are definitely some people who love Dino Crisis 3. Yeah. So let's see. That's not really a question, but we'll say it anyway. New Breath of Fire would be nice. They say it would be. Did you work on I mean, I know we did some.
There was a PS2 game that came out. Oh gosh, that's probably 5-6 years ago now. I would guess. Yeah, I mean, RPGs, interesting. Whether those are something that are as relevant as in today's to today's gaming. I know. Don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of people that love an RPG. I think the other thing is whether the people that worked on those Breath of Fire games are still actually, employed by Capcom. I think if you're going to do a game like that, it always, a sequel and a next one in the series, and it always helps to have people who were involved in the previous iterations, so they can bring with them their expertise of the brand values, if you will. And on that one, I'm not entirely sure who's still around, to be honest.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
It happens.
Unlike me, not everyone stays around as long as me, are they?
Well, anyway, well, I think we'll end on a decent note here. I mean, we talked a lot, so there is one final question I have to ask. How do people get a job at Capcom? Working in PR. I mean, you've had a lot of experience, and it's a little bit bigger question, but
so.
How did you get your start? What can people learn?
I long time ago, I did a work placement at a PR agency that at the time had the Sega account. This is back in the day when this is Mega Drive days.
Yeah.
Okay. Genesis in North America. So this is when there was a lot of money sloshing around. There was Sonic was huge. There was a big blowout between him and Mario.
Yeah.
And I worked there for a bit, so that's how I kind of got involved in video games. I played them anyway, but this was like, where's Sonic? Then I actually got a job in-house at Sega.
Oh, wow.
And I worked there for a couple of years. I then moved to Activision. I worked there for a few years. I then did a bit of agency work, and then I ended up at Capcom, where I am now. So, I think people now that get into PR, I mean, there's now actually, certainly in the UK, you can do a public relations degree.
Oh, really?
Laura, my colleague, she did one of those, and she's now here. I mean, she did an internship with THQ as part of her degree, and then applied for the job at Capcom. Oftentimes, we find that people move from journalism into PR, which actually helps a lot, because I think if you've had that journalistic experience, you know what a journalist wants in order to write the best story and give it more pagination, more words on a
that makes sense
than they would otherwise.
You know what it's like both sides.
Yeah, so Wes, for instance, who's CIPI, he's been on this show, right?
Yeah, these guys should know Wes.
He started out as a journalist. It's nice to have that balance. So Me, I'm sort of just, I only know one thing, so it's probably, I'm probably a bit, I have to learn from other people. But for me, if I was looking to hire somebody, what I'd like to see is someone who has a good understanding of the industry, first and foremost, as a whole.
Yeah.
Has, ideally, I think, done some work experience somewhere. There is no substitute for that. I know that work experience means working for peanuts, but if you can have that on your resume and say, look, I did this for little or no money, that proves to a potential employer, this guy wants this career.
Right.
And I think that that's the same for any job.
Yeah.
To me.
I know what that's like.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
So, is that it? Am I off the hook now?
You are off the hook.
Okay.
Some good advice for anyone inspiring to work on a different side of video games. I mean, there's a lot of people who talk about art, or design or being a developer, but it's not too often that we talk about sort of the other jobs. I mean, we are a real company with multiple sides of things. So if you've ever wanted to work in video games, I think, PR is another good example of like having fun in a video game job. So.
If you can write well, if you can communicate well, unlike what I've done today, then, those are sort of the core disciplines that you need. And, obviously a passion for the subject that you're PRing helps. Believe me, I once had to PR contact lenses a long time ago. I don't even wear contact lenses. It was very hard for me to PR those things. So if you like the thing you're working on, it makes it so much easier, because your enthusiasm, certainly in PR, you need to come across as someone who's enthusiastic, because you're selling this game effectively to the press. So if you love it, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I haven't fallen out of love yet.
Good to hear. All right, Ben.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Take care, man.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys in a little bit. Hopefully, we'll play some more games here real soon, and then I think we'll be moving on to tomorrow's stuff.
Okay. Cheers, Sean. Bye. Is that all right, Tim?